We weren't chasing ghosts. We were chasing proof. That's what I told myself as we turned off the highway and followed the GPS down a narrow Ohio back road that seemed to swallow headlights. The trees stood too close together, bare and rigid, like a crowd pretending not to watch. Even the fog felt deliberate, pooled low and thick, sliding across the asphalt like breath. Mason drove. He always drove. Steady hands, steady voice, the kind of calm you could lean on. I sat shotgun with the camera bag at my feet and a list of must-capture shots in my notes app. Behind us, Talia checked audio levels and kept whispering, "Don't peek, don't peek," like she was talking to a wild animal. Our channel, Haunted States, was getting traction. People wanted bigger, darker, more dangerous places. They wanted to see us shake. And Ohio had given us a gift. An old prison locals called the worst place to spend a night. Not because it was falling apart, though it was. Not because of the history, though it had plenty. But because, according to every single person we spoke to, it wasn't empty. They didn't say haunted, they said occupied. The prison rose out of the fog like a bruised cathedral. Stone walls, narrow windows, and a central tower that looked like a watchful eye. The sign out front was rusted and half-missing letters, but you could still read prison if you knew what to look for. We parked near the visitor lot, the tires crunching gravel that sounded too loud in the quiet. A man in a thick coat stepped out of the mist and waved us over. "Name's Rick," he said, and his breath came out in white ribbons. "I'm the overnight coordinator." He didn't smile, not even a polite one. He checked our IDs, had us sign a waiver, and handed Mason a ring of keys that looked heavy enough to bruise. "Rules," Rick said, turning his flashlight beam down the cracked walkway. "You stay out of the infirmary, you stay out of solitary, and you do not, under any circumstance, go into cell block D." Talia raised an eyebrow. "What's in D?" Rick didn't answer right away. He stared at the prison like it once stared at him. "You'll hear knocking," he said finally. "You'll hear footsteps. You'll hear voices. That's normal here." "Normal?" Mason repeated, trying for a laugh. Rick didn't react. "But if they hear you call you by name," Rick's voice dropped, "you don't answer. You don't follow. You don't even look for where it came from. You treat it like a fire alarm that isn't real." I felt my stomach tighten. Rick swung the gate open with a groan that sounded like a complaint. "Sunrise is at 7:12, he added. "If you're not out by 7, I come in. If I come in with more people." Talia blinked. "More people?" Rick's flashlight beam paused on the doorway like he was reluctant to point it. "Yeah," he said, "the kind of people who know how to bring someone back if they leave part of themselves behind." Then he stepped away, leaving the gate to swing shut behind us. The sound echoed across the yard and didn't stop echoing when it should have, like the prison wanted it. Inside, the air changed. It wasn't just colder, it was older. Stale with damp stone and something metallic underneath, like pennies rubbed between fingers. Our footsteps bounced down the corridor and returned slightly altered, as if the sound got chewed before it came back. Mason clicked on the main camera and did our intro in a hushed voice. "We're inside one of Ohio's most haunted prisons. We're locked in overnight. No staff, no tours, just us and whatever's still here." Talia held up the EMF meter and smiled, but her eyes were tired and wary. "Baseline is low, just old wiring, so if it spikes, it's not the building." I adjusted the strap of my bag and followed them deeper. Cells lined the hallway. Some doors were open, yawning dark, others shut, bars casting long shadows like comb teeth. One cell had a tally mark system that went too high to count. Another had a message scratched into the concrete. Don't sleep. Not like advice, like a warning. We set up our base camp in an old administrative room near the entrance. Safer, Rick said. Less activity. Mason placed the night vision camera on a tripod facing the door. Talia laid out the tools: digital recorder, thermal cam, EMF meter, flashlight, spare batteries. I unpacked my own setup: a handheld camera with a shotgun mic and a second audio recorder for ambient sound. Okay, Mason said, forcing brightness into his voice. We do a sweep, we do some call and response, we camp, we go home. Easy. Talia stared into the hallway, where the darkness looked too organized. Sure, she said. Easy. We started with cell block A, the closest. It was quiet at first, the kind of quiet that makes you hear your own blood. Then we reached the shower room. Tiles peeled in strips, rust stains ran down the walls like old tears. The drains looked like mouths. Mason panned the camera slowly. People reported screams here, he said, like someone was drowning. Talia held up the thermal cam, her voice turning professional. Temperatures are stable. Wait. The screen showed the room in false colors: walls, sinks, broken mirrors. Then, near the far corner, a shape. Not a full human outline, more like a vertical column of cold, tall and narrow, the size of a person standing still. My throat tightened. You're seeing that? Talia's hand trembled slightly. Yeah. Mason's camera zoomed. The thermal silhouette didn't move. It didn't sway or drift like a draft. It stood there like it had been waiting. Mason whispered, "Hello?" The silhouette vanished. Not faded, vanished. One frame it existed, the next it didn't. Talia exhaled hard. That's not airflow. Mason lowered the camera a fraction. Okay, that's a hit. We should have left the room then. But the thing about proof is once you get a taste, you want a meal. We moved to the next corridor, a long line of cells with a catwalk above. The metal stairs groaned under our weight even though we stepped lightly. Halfway down the block, Talia stopped. Did you hear that? We froze. A sound slid through the air, soft, rhythmic. Tap, tap, tap. Mason's eyes darted toward the cell bars. It sounded like nails on metal. The tapping moved with us as we took a few steps forward. Tap, tap, tap. Like something matching our pace from inside the walls. I turned my camera toward the bars. The lens caught nothing but shadow. Then, a whisper brushed my left ear, so close it made the tiny hairs stand up. John. My stomach dropped, because I hadn't told them my name on camera yet. I hadn't said it out loud at all tonight. Mason was still filming. Talia's lips parted, waiting. The whisper came again, a little clearer. John, come here. My hand clenched around the camera grip so hard it hurt. Talia turned slowly. Did you just... I shook my head fast, too fast. No. Mason swallowed. You guys heard it though, right? Like a voice? Talia nodded stiffly. But neither of them said my name. Only the prison had. Rick's warning flashed through my head like a strobe. If it calls you by name, don't answer, don't follow, don't even look for where it came from. So I stared at my shoes, like a child refusing eye contact with a bully. Mason cleared his throat. We're not here for anything negative. We're not here to disrespect you. Tap, tap, tap. The sound shifted upward. Now it was above us on the catwalk, the metal vibrating faintly. But there was nothing there. Talia whispered, "Let's go back." Mason hesitated. Just a little further, a few more cells. We took 3 steps. The tapping stopped. For one blessed moment, the air held still. Then, bang! A cell door slammed somewhere down the corridor. The sound was violent, final, like a judge's gavel. Mason spun his camera that direction. What the? Another. Bang! Closer. Another door. Then another. A chain reaction, like invisible hands were slamming them one by one. Bang! 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 The noise marched towards us. Talia grabbed Mason's sleeve. "We're leaving, now!" The slam stopped at the cell beside us. The door next to my shoulder shuddered once. Then the little slot in the door, the food flap, clicked open, slowly, with a squeal of metal. A cold draft poured out, smelling like wet pennies. Inside the cell, something moved. Not a person, not an animal. A shape in the darkness shifted like it was standing up from a crouch. My camera light caught a pale surface for half a second. A face? No, not a face. A mask of skin stretched too smooth with no features where features should be. It leaned toward the bars, and then it whispered, perfectly, in my voice, "Come here." Talia yanked me backwards so hard my shoulder popped. Mason cursed and stumbled, and we ran. Back in the admin room, Mason slammed the door and shoved a chair under the handle, even though the handle had no lock. Talia's hands shook as she checked the audio recorder. "Please tell me we got that." I sat on the floor, trying to breathe through the tightness in my chest. Mason swallowed, looking pale. We got something. We definitely got something. The hallway outside was quiet again. Too quiet, like the building was listening through the cracks. Talia held up the EMF meter. Baseline's high now, way high. The little bars danced as if the air itself was wired. "Okay," Mason said, voice strained but determined. "We don't panic. It's midnight, activity peaks around now. We stay here, do one controlled session, then we ride it out." I wanted to say no. I wanted to say we should leave, rules or not, keys or not, but my mouth was dry and my pride was heavier. Mason set the digital recorder on the table and pressed record. "This is a communication session. If there's anyone here with us, you can speak into this device." Silence. Talia placed the thermal cam in the center of the room. "I'm going to ask yes/no questions. If you're here, show us a cold spot." Seconds passed. Then the temperature dropped. Not gradually, instantly. My breath fogged the air. The thermal cam beeped as a blue patch bloomed across the floor, creeping towards the table like spilled ink. Talia's eyes widened. Okay, we see you." Mason's lips licked. "Are you an inmate?" The blue patch climbed the table leg. The room felt tight, like the walls leaned in. Talia whispered, "Don't ask." Mason asked anyway, "Did you die here?" The lights flickered, not like a power issue, like a blink. The recorder crackled with static. Then a voice came through, low, wet, too close. "Yes." All 3 of us froze. Talia's hand covered her mouth. Mason stared at the recorder like it was a snake. I couldn't move at all. Then the voice spoke again, slow and deliberate, like it was tasting the words. "John." My heart thudded against my ribs. Talia shook her head rapidly. "No, no, no." Mason whispered, "We didn't say his name." The voice continued, now layered with something else, like multiple throats talking at once. "Let him in." The admin room door rattled. Not a gentle shake, a hard, impatient jolt, like someone trying the handle. Mason jumped up and grabbed the chair, pushing it tighter under the handle. The rattling stopped. For a second, there was quiet. Then, knock, knock, knock. 3 knocks, slow and intentional. Talia whispered, That's not the building." Mason leaned toward the door, camera still rolling. "Who is it?" The knocks came again. Knock, knock, knock. Then a voice on the other side, calm as a neighbor asking for sugar. "Open up." It sounded like Mason. Mason's face drained of color, because he hadn't spoken. The voice repeated, perfectly, "Open up." I scrambled backward on the floor until my back hit the wall. Talia shook her head violently, tears shining in her eyes. Don't do it." Mason's jaw clenched. "I'm not opening anything." The voice outside sighed. Then it began to laugh. Soft at first, a chuckle. Then a deeper laugh, a chorus of laughter, overlapping, echoing down the corridor. The door handle began to turn, slowly, against the chair. The wood groaned. Mason shoved against it with both hands, teeth bared. "It's not possible." The handle turned further. The chair squealed across the floor, inching. Talia grabbed my arm. "If it gets in." The lights went out. Total darkness. No emergency glow. No moonlight. Our flashlights clicked on frantically, beams shaking. In the circle of Mason's light, the door was still shut. The chair was still wedged. But something else had changed. On the wall beside the door, fresh scratches were appearing. Not old marks, new, deep, letters being carved into the paint as we watched. J-O-H-N, my name, being written by an unseen hand. Then, beneath it, another word, S-T-A-Y. The letters finished with a final gouge, and the scratching stopped. Silence flooded in. The lights flickered back on. Mason stared at the wall like his brain refused to accept it. Talia whispered, "It wants you to stay." My voice came out thin. "Or it wants me not to leave." Mason turned slowly, swallowing hard. "We're leaving at first light." Talia shook her head. "No, we leave now." Mason hesitated. "Rick said." Talia cut him off. "I don't care what Rick said. I'm not waiting here until it decides it's done with us." Another knock echoed down the corridor, farther away this time, like it was moving. Knock, knock, knock. A door creaked open somewhere. Then another. A chain of whispers rose, faint and hungry, like wind through reeds. Mason stared at the keys in his hand. "Okay," he said hoarsely. "We go." We stepped out into the hallway with our lights pointed forward like weapons. The prison felt different now, awake in a way it hadn't been earlier. The air carried movement you couldn't see, like something pacing just beyond the beams. We moved fast, heading toward the main exit. Halfway there, Talia stopped dead. "Wait," she whispered. At the end of the hall, a figure stood in the darkness, tall, still, wearing what looked like an old guard uniform. Mason raised the camera. "Hello?" The figure didn't move. Talia lifted the thermal cam. The figure didn't register. No heat, nothing, just empty space in the shape of a man. I swallowed. That's not human. Mason took a careful step forward. The figure tilted its head like a curious animal. Then it lifted one arm and pointed. Not at us, behind us. Talia's eyes widened. "Don't turn around." But the instinct was too strong. I turned, and my flashlight beam landed on Cell Block D's entrance. We hadn't been near it before. We weren't even in that part of the building. Yet there it was at the side of the corridor, like a door that had moved when we weren't looking. A sign above it, half hanging, D. And from inside that darkness came the tapping again. Tap, tap, tap. And a voice, soft as a lullaby. "John, you're already here." Mason grabbed my sleeve. "Nope, no, we're not doing this." Talia backed away, shaking. "The building's shifting. It's shifting."
The guard figure at the end of the hall smiled, not with a mouth, with the idea of one. The air in the corridor thickened, as if the building was trying to push us towards that doorway. My legs felt heavy, my thoughts felt slow, like sleep trying to pull me under. "Don't sleep," the wall had warned. Talia slapped my cheek hard. "Stay with me," she hissed. "Don't you dare drift." I blinked, stunned awake. Mason shouted, voice breaking the trance, "We are leaving now." He yanked us forward, away from cell block D. The pressure eased. The tapping turned frantic. Tap, 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 like angry fingers on metal. We ran. The guard figure vanished, leaving nothing but fog at the far end. We burst into the yard, the cold night air hitting us like freedom. The gate was still there, the padlock hung open, as if someone had already unlocked it. We didn't question it. We sprinted to the car, fumbling with gear, hands shaking too badly to be smooth. Mason threw the keys into the ignition. The engine sputtered. Once, twice, then died. Talia's voice cracked. "No, no, please." Mason tried again. The engine coughed, but wouldn't catch. From the prison behind us, a sound rolled across the yard. A long, low exhale, like the building was disappointed. Then, faintly, from somewhere inside, knock, knock, knock. 3 slow knocks. Mason whispered, "Start, start, start." The engine finally roared to life. We didn't look back. We tore down the road, gravel spraying, tires whining.
Only when the prison was far behind and the fog thinned did any of us speak. Talia stared at her hands like they didn't belong to her. Mason's knuckles were white on the wheel. I checked the time on my phone. 7:11 a.m. 1 minute before sunrise. I frowned. "That's not right," I whispered. We hadn't stayed all night. We'd been inside maybe 2 hours. But my phone said morning. Mason's voice was hollow. "Time doesn't work in there." Talia swallowed. "Did you feel it? The sleep? The pull?" I nodded. The memory of the voice using my name felt like a fingerprint on my brain. We drove in silence until we hit a gas station near a town with actual lights and people. Mason pulled into the lot, killed the engine, and just sat there breathing. Talia finally broke. "Check the footage." Mason looked at me. "Please, tell me we got it." I opened the camera's playback. Scrolled. The shower room clip was there. The thermal silhouette. The doors slamming. But when we reached the admin room, static. The entire communication session was static. The lights out moment. The scratches. All static. Mason's face twisted. "No. No, no, no." Talia checked her audio recorder. The file existed. But when she played it, it was silent. Not blank. Silent like someone had erased sound. Except for one thing. At the very end of the recording, after we'd supposedly stopped it, there was a single clear whisper. My voice, perfectly mimicked, saying, "I stayed." Talia's eyes filled with tears. Mason stared at me like he was trying to make sure I was still me. I forced a laugh, thin and weak. That's just a glitch. But my phone buzzed in my hand. A new notification. An unknown number. Talia watched me, shaking her head. "Don't." I shouldn't have. but my thumb moved anyway. I played it. Static at first, then a knock, distant and hollow. Knock, knock, knock. And then Rick's voice, calm, matter-of-fact, like he was leaving a message after missed calls. Sunrise is 7:13. I checked my phone. 7:13 a.m. Rick continued, quieter. If you're not out by 7, I come in. A pause. Then the whisper returned, layered with laughter, voices piling up behind it. Let him in. My stomach turned to ice, because the message wasn't coming from the prison. It was coming from my phone, from inside my pocket, from inside the car. And when I looked up, across the street, in the reflection of the gas station window, I saw a tall figure standing behind us, wearing an old uniform, watching, still, patient, like it knew something we didn't, like it was waiting for the part of me that never made it out. Talia whispered, barely audible, "John." I didn't answer. I couldn't, because in the glass, the figure lifted its hand and pointed, not at the prison, not at the road, at me. And behind its faceless head, written faintly on the fogged window like a breathmark, were 4 words: "Don't sleep. Don't look back." But there was no 5th word, no leave. Just the feeling that the prison wasn't done. It had only moved, and it had learned my name.